Are you thinking of getting started in property in 2025? Well, this step-by-step guide is going to show you everything you need to know, even if you're a beginner. Property is still one of the best asset classes you can invest in, but you have to get the foundations right. So there are 7 steps to go through, and once you master these 7, you've really got a holistic idea of what you need to implement to make money. And it all starts with education. Now, I wasn't going to put this one first, but actually, I think it's really important because if we're starting right at the beginning of your journey, you can't start with picking your strategy out. The reality is, yes, I own an education company. Yes, I have a vested interest if you invest in your education. But genuinely, even from before that, you really want to figure out who you want to get educated by and what sort of content you want. Now, you'll realize even on this YouTube channel, there's over 700 videos, and not all of them are going to relate to you. So here's my recommendation is find a handful of YouTubers. You're obviously on here because you like watching things or listening to things, and narrow it down to the 1 or 2 people that you actually want to listen to. And the reason I say that is there's a variety of educators on YouTube. Some of them good, some of them not so good. I'd like to think I'm one of the good ones, but I'll let you make that decision. But also, their approach is going to be slightly different. And the reality is, I'm sure their approach works for them and my approach works for me. But what's not going to work is trying to do 2 separate approaches. So narrow it down. And I recommend 30 minutes a day on YouTube. Like whatever you're watching in the evening, for example, could you exchange that 1 episode on Netflix for a YouTube video or 2? And I promise you, if you swapped out Netflix for YouTube but focused on YouTube, you'll actually make a lot of money and your education level will go through the roof, giving you a good baseline to your foundations. So when you're watching YouTube at the beginning, just focus on your basics. I mean, what is a buy-to-let? What is a refinance? Limited company versus owning as an individual, ROCE, yield, buy-to-lets versus HMOs, maybe lease options, whatever it is. And you might be listening and go, I know all that inside out. Great, maybe you're a step ahead. But if you don't, I've got 700 videos. Go and find them, subscribe to the channel or whoever you're buying into, and listen and immerse yourself in the basics before we move on to anything more complex. Now we've got some basic education, we need to move on to number 2, which is setting clear goals. And the reason this is so important is that you would never get into a taxi and just go drive. You never drive to the airport and just get in an airplane and see what happens, right? But people do this, and it's kind of like, yeah, that's a stupid example. It's not. Actually, so many people do this in business, and I go, well, what's your goal? Money. So yeah, thank you. Like, obviously, it's like, really, you're starting a business just to make money. So well, why not go get a job and develop your way up? Why is it you want a business rather than a job? Why this property strategy versus that property strategy? So you need to get really clear on what your goals are. Is it cash flow? Is it freedom? And if it is freedom, is it time freedom, location freedom, financial freedom, or all 3? There are 3 different types of freedoms in different order. Is it you're looking to make nice chunks of cash that you can do a deal, make a load and go on holiday? Is it that actually you're looking to redirect the financial future through wealth through that? And all of these are going to point towards different strategies. Now, I'm sure you've heard of this before, but the clearer you are on your goals, the more likely you will be successful. Remember, success is you measuring against you, but if you don't know what the destination is, how do you know how well you're doing? So what I like doing is having SMART goals. So SMART goals are specific, so actually giving detail to it. Measurable. How can you actually measure your success? If you say more money, that doesn't really mean anything. Whereas if it's, I am going for £10,000, then that's going to be really powerful. £10,000 a month, then it's actually measurable. Achievable. Is it like relatively realistic? And what I mean by that is, if you're making 0 and you're targeting 10K a month, that is actually achievable. I'm doing 0 and I want to be making $1 million a month by the end of the year. I can near guarantee that's just not happening. Relevant. Is it actually aligned to what you want to achieve? The amount of people, and I can near guarantee that most of you listening, I bet your goal is 10K a month. Now, that's not going to be every single one of you. Let me know if I was right, though. Be honest by it right now. Almost everyone, it's 10K a month. Why? Why is it not 5,384? Why is it not 15,900? Like, it's always 10K a month, or that's the most common figure. And it actually isn't relevant to what their goals are and what you're trying to achieve. And finally, timeline. You want to make sure it's timely. 10K a month, by when? So by being smart, which is specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and timely, you actually have a goal that has identity that you can start moving towards. Which moves to step number 3, which is understanding your finances. Your finances are absolutely crucial. You're not going anywhere without budget, right? Now, I am a big believer that when you don't have the resources, you've got to get resourceful. But even if you're watching this with 0 point fuck all in the bank account right now, you still need to get resourceful in understanding what access to finance you're going to have. And so when we're looking at finances, we're going to go for institutional investors, which for the sake of this video means the bank. And then we're going to go to private individuals. And these can be small-time investors, family, and friends. So let's start with banks. Well, if you're looking, for example, you've looked at your basics of education and decided, I want boring vanilla buy-to-let properties. I've got a very clear goal of building in 5 properties into my buy-to-let portfolio that cash flow £200 a month by the end of this 12-month period. And I'm going to need $250,000 in equity and the rest in debt. Now we've got some sort of structure to how we're going. But what if you need that 250 in equity, but you've got fuck all? Well, suddenly we're going to have to think about this. So the first thing you're going to want to do is talk to a mortgage broker. And a mortgage broker, from an investment side of things, is going to give you a really good idea of what you're likely to be lent upon. Now, what's really important to understand is that with buy-to-let properties, it's not one buy-to-let mortgage. You can have hundreds of buy-to-let mortgages. And the reason for that is when you get funding, yes, you need to be a lendable individual, i.e. you don't have CCJs and you've got some sort of salary, which normally, by the way, if you don't have a court county judgment against you, and if you don't know what that is, you probably don't have one, and you earn a salary of, say, 25 grand, that is enough to get a buy-to-let mortgage. I know, right? And the reason for that is it's based on the property rather than you as an individual. So they'll look at the economics, the finances of that property and make that decision to lend to you. So talk to a broker first and understand your situation. And then what I'd also do is I'd look at my personal finance situation. So I do this every 3 months and I look at what sort of personal loan I could get from my bank. So for example, I bank with Lloyds. I looked at what a 50 grand personal loan would be over a 6-year period. And it was something like £580 a month. And the reason I look at that is it's always good to look at where your resources are going to get you. Now, in my situation, it's a bit of a different situation. But for you, it's just looking at how resourceful you can get at the beginning of your journey. Finally, who are your friends, family, and investors around you? And the way that I usually find them is I say, hey, look, I'm getting into property investment. Here's what I'm doing. I've got educated. I've got clear goals to get to. Do you know anyone that could benefit from getting a bank-beating return on their money? And that's what I used to do. I used to go around, like, not literally walking around talking to everyone, but you've heard of the 3-foot rule maybe, which is basically tell everyone what you do, communicate effectively, and just say, hey, look, this is what I do. By the way, do you know anyone that might benefit from getting bank-beating returns? Because you'll be shocked how often somebody goes, yeah, I'd like a conversation. I've got 20 grand. I've got 50 grand. And it would shock you how many people close to you have over 50 grand in the bank ready to go because they don't have a clue what to do about it. Now, before I move on from finances, remember, your network is your net worth. When you don't have resources, you've got to get resourceful. None of this is financial advice, just an opinion on an approach you can have. Step 4, which I was very tempted to move to step number 1, but I didn't for the reasons that I've gone through, is figuring out your strategy. Now, the reason I didn't put this number 1 is it's hard to know your strategy when you don't even know what ones are available. I don't know about you. When I got into property, my education was Martin and Lucy on Homes Under the Hammer, and everything was about buy-to-let property or buy it, do it up and sell it, which is buy-to-lets or flips, right? And actually, there's so much more in between. So for example, you would buy buy-to-let if you're looking to get steady income and ultimately looking to become a millionaire over the next decade or two through property. So it's more about long-term wealth and legacy through buy-to-lets. Whereas if you're looking for maximizing your cash flow and that's more of interest for you, but you're happy to take on the extra workload, you might look into HMOs or serviced accommodation. If you're looking for bigger chunks of cash, where you're looking to do a deal, get a nice chunk of change and have some fun with it, maybe doing a flip where you're buying, refurbishing and selling a property is going to be for you. Or maybe if you're looking to get heavily involved and get your passive pot working as hard for you, you might do some BRRRRs, buy, refurbish, refinance and repeat, and you go again. Now, there's a lot of different strategies. You might even want to get creative with assisted sales, lease options, or do what I do and actually want to build a service-based business with this where you can make hundreds of thousands every year, and you could do something called deal packaging. Now, the reality is, it doesn't matter which you do. I'm not really one of these people where I think one is better than the other. For me, it's really individualized. It's based around you as an individual. And hey, do you know what? If you're not subscribed to this YouTube channel, make sure to subscribe. I've done videos on every single one of them, breaking down step by step. So it's worth just checking out. And you know, if you're going back to step number 1, maybe seek out those videos on this channel, watch those first so you've got a really good idea and an attack plan of what you want to create goals around. So my actionable tip on this is to try not to do everything on once. Focus, and focus actually is an acronym, by the way, is follow one course until successful. And that is the acronym of focus. So follow one strategy, immerse yourself in it, and become the master of the one. The hard thing is figuring out based on your situation, which is the one to focus on. So what I'd like to offer you, and if you're watching this right now, you can do this, put education in the comments. I'll send you a link, and what you can do is book in a free one-to-one strategy session. And on that strategy session, it'll be myself or one of my team. We'll go through where you're at and where you actually want to get to and give you what we think is the best strategy for you to focus on in 2025. And if we can help you along that journey, amazing. Or worst case, we'll give you some specialized advice. So put education in the comments. I'll send you a link and you can book that in over the next few weeks. Number 5. Research. And when I'm saying research, I actually mean researching the market in this case. We've heard location, 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 right? We really want to get down to understanding where's the high rental demand, where's the growth areas going on, where's population, infrastructure, investment. And 95% of this is actually available online. I'm going to give you a really nice tip with this when you're researching an area is think about the end user, because ultimately everything you're producing is about the customer. Any business, and by the way, if you're building a buy-to-let portfolio, that is a business. You want to be customer centric. You want to think about the customer first, okay? What is the customer? What do they like? Well, if you're a tenant or anybody looking to live in a property, what things would you like? Well, we focus on families, for example. So if I were a dad with a couple of kids and a missus, I'd probably want some decent schools nearby. I'd probably want decent infrastructure. I wouldn't want crazy high crime rate. I'd want buses, maybe a train station near me. I'd want something within a 5-10 minute walk where I can get a fresh loaf of bread or a pint of milk. Maybe I'd want a decent shop nearby, maybe a hospital. Now, I'm not saying you need to find an area with all of these in, but I really would like to rent, live in a property, own a property eventually maybe, that's in an area that can actually facilitate my demands. What you need to understand about property, it's not so much the bricks and mortar that actually holds any value from a buy-to-let or pretty much any investment perspective. It's the location, it's the ground it's on, it's the infrastructure, it's what's there now and what's going to be there in the next 5 years. So my top tip for researching your area is look online at what's there, but actually look at the local government and local council and see what their plans are for the next 5 to 10 years. Does it look exciting? Does it look growth focused, or is nothing going on there? Because I'm telling you, I'd rather buy a property that is in an okay area that has a load of investment going into it rather than a decent area that has nothing else going on. Number 6, and arguably, yeah, I'd say one of the best ones, most important ones, is taking action. Now, seems really obvious, doesn't it? But honestly, I don't know if you've heard of this phrase, positive procrastination. So it's a really dangerous form of procrastination, because normal procrastination is like Netflix. Like if you watched 5 episodes of Netflix last night, You know you procrastinated. You know you were putting off the work. Whereas when you're doing your emails for a couple of hours, maybe you've watched one too many videos on YouTube, and eventually it becomes positive procrastination. And the reason I say this is I talk to people, specifically in property in my businesses, right, where people spend months and months and months, and I go, great, how many offers have you put in? Well, I haven't put any offers actually in yet because I haven't got my investor. Right, but I've done like 20 viewings. So, okay, and how many offers did you put in on those 20 viewings? Oh no, I'm just getting a feel for the area. And it's like, right, so you did 20 sets of analysis, 20 viewings, that's however much it's cost you in petrol, and more importantly, your time. Not only that, you wasted 20 agents' time. How disrespectful is that? And so I really want you thinking, what are the things that actually convert money? And I just give you a quick tip. I think of ACE and LAPS here. So ACE is a marketing actions, awareness, communication, extraction. For example, I create this video and hopefully it's adding value for you. If you're on step 6 and you've not gone, you probably are getting value, right? That's building awareness. You might know who I am already, or this is the first time you've heard of me and you think, he's a bit of a dick, or actually I quite like this guy, I'm going to subscribe to the channel, hint. Right, so that's building awareness of who I am. But then I might go, by the way, if you want some help and you want a one-to-one strategy session, put education in the comments. That gives me C, that's communicating. So I'm engaging with you, and then E is extracting. So my top tip around marketing is ACE, awareness, communication, extraction. Every day be doing something that is making somebody aware of who you are, communicate with them, extract them, and actually have a chat with them. And then LAPS, L-A-P-S, which is sales focus, which is lead, appointment, proposal, and sale. So I'm going to pick up the phone and have a chat with the lead. I'm going to qualify them, find out if they're ready, willing, and able to actually work with us, and I'm going to book them in for an appointment. On that appointment, I'm going to find out where they're at, where they want to get to, and if I can even help them get from point A to point B. And if I can, I'm going to put forward a proposal, and they'll say yes or no. And if they say yes, I get the sale. And that's for investors and vendors. Why am I saying this? Well, when I'm saying take action, I'm not saying buy a nice notebook so you can make them. I'm not saying open Rightmove, and I'm not saying go and do a load of viewings. What I'm saying is, what actions can you take today that actually get you one step closer to success, and then do that? And for me, that is ACE and LAPS every single day. I'm going to give you a little bonus here, beyond taking action, is team. So you might not be thinking about this. In fact, you're definitely not if you're at the start of your journey. But think about what team that you need. At some point in business, you need to delegate to elevate. And this isn't just your power team, like your broker, which is obviously very important, your solicitor, your letting agent, your tradespeople, for example. All of those are incredibly important. And my top tip, by the way, is get yourself to a local BNI, Business Network International, to find those people. Remember, like I said earlier, your network is your net worth. That's going to get your power team, or your A team, as people like to say, ahead. But also think about, if you're hiring your next individual, who would it be? And the reason why I like this is, first of all, if you're growing a successful business, you'll need to delegate faster than you think. And I always have that in my head. You've got to delegate to elevate your position, all right? So in order to raise your rates, in order to increase your profits, increase your revenue, sometimes you're going to have to get someone to do something else. And a great example of this video, not that I have this skill set whatsoever, but filming this video takes half an hour. What about editing it? Maybe 2.5, 3 hours? 4 hours? About 5 hours? Takes time, right? And it's like, that's 5 hours out of my time. So not only do I not have that talent, but with the stage of business that I'm at now, it would cost me less to outsource that for one of the team and pay them to do it, so then I can spend my time on higher value tasks, right? And that's how every business is built. So first of all, there's talents that you don't have. But more importantly, you'll want to outsource your weaknesses faster. So for example, I'm not a very organized individual. My team will tell you. But because of that, one of my first hires was a PA to really help me. Here's the final thing of what it does for you when you think about team though, is that when you write roles, responsibilities, your key result areas, your KPIs, your targets, and you start treating yourself as an employee, then you give yourself that structure and accountability. And I'm going to tell you right now, especially if you're in a job right now, one of the reasons you want to leave that job is you want the freedom. right? I don't want to have to get somewhere at this time and do a 9 to 5. I can promise you, you're delusional. You are so desperate to leave your 9 to 5 to create a 5 to 9. Like, when it's your business, it's your baby. You want to work, you want to build these things up. And for me, by thinking about team and who I want to hire next and who I want to delegate to next, it actually forces me to treat myself as an employee, and I can understand what does it mean to be successful in this role. And then I get really good, really process driven. I have my key result areas. I know what it takes to be successful, and it will help you flourish. So even if you don't hire somebody, you can be the best performing employee for yourself, for your business, your financial future, and therefore your family. So let me just wrap this up again. Number one, get educated. At first, get educated for free. And I've got a vested interest in saying this next part, as I've got an education company. The next step is, once you found the person you like and you genuinely relate to them, put your hand in your pocket and actually get educated. Don't be delusional to think that you can build a multi-million-pound business or even a six-figure business without specific guidance. And yes, the call to action is education if you want to have a chat around that. Number two, have clear, smart goals, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. Make sure you look at your finances. If you don't have the resources, you've got to get resourceful. Number four, you've got to have your strategy in place. There is a big difference between building a lease option portfolio to doing assisted sales or even buy-to-lets. I've got videos on the channel for each. Make sure to look at them. Number five, get your research, especially when it comes to location. Remember, the value is not in the bricks and mortar, it's of the ground that it's on. Location, location, location. Number six, take accurate, relevant actions, not on the things that I would count as positive procrastinations, but the things that are going to move you forward through ace and laps. And finally, act as if you've got the team, okay? Prepare yourself with roles and responsibilities, key result areas, KPIs, and you will be successful. And here's my final thoughts on encouragement. If you're at the beginning of your journey, welcome to a location that every single person has been in, okay? So some of you will be watching this and not knowing my position. To give you a bit of a download, maybe I should have said this at the start of the video. I've done 10 million in the last 12 months across my businesses, and it's my 10th year in business. But guess what? In order to do my 1,000th deal, I had to do my first one. It doesn't matter where you want to go. It starts from where you're at today. And every successful person that you've known or met or you're watching on YouTube started where you are right now. You have everything you need in order to be successful. And if you follow these steps, you'll get one step closer. I hope this has been valuable. If you do want to have a chat, as I said, put education in. And if you just want to watch more of this, make sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell, and I'll see you in the next video.